Start of the 1986 Tour of Tameside, the Puma 7-mile road race, and 490 starters have faced the marksman's gun.
This is the lead car in today's 7 miles road stage of the Tour of Tameside. Morning everybody, nice to see you. Now we're going to give the runners a bit of a clap, a cheer even, as they go past their 500 on the line.
On the stage there's a short loop of just over a mile and then a second large loop of just under 6 miles. Plenty of hills in the course, including the long hill up Market Street from the finish, which the runners have to face twice, and then several undulations out in the country and in the vicinity of Hattersley, followed by a 1.5 mile downhill and then flat run to the finish. But with 52.4 miles ahead of them, as we can see, people are pacing themselves and taking it rather easily at the start. Come on, Ronnie, unfortunately yours truly, limping round the first small lap just to get some of the atmosphere of the race. Unfortunately, it's the first time that I've had to miss the Tour due to a knee operation about 3 days before the race. Number 6, Harry Clegg from St Helens Athletic Club, and Steve Brace from Bridgend Athletic Club taking an early lead, just checking over his shoulder at the opposition as he goes through the start line after the end of the first small lap. This is just over 1 mile gone in the race, and he starts to climb Market Street again, heading out into the big lap, looking through a shop window there just to check whether he's got a good style or a bad style. Now he's checking on the other side to see how far the opposition is behind. As Harry Clegg with the maroon shorts, along with the man in green, Tony O'Kell from Sale Harriers, give chase.
Mr. Harriers is well up there as well. And we go out now. Good morning, nice to see you.
Many of these people are veterans of the Tour, so they know what to expect and are just taking their time on this first Sunday morning stage. Number 37 was the first woman to go through, Karen Wapshot from Bracknell AC. And of course 490 runners is a lot of bodies to cope with for the police, and most of these runners are going to be extending themselves over the 6 stages in the 7 days of the Tour of Tameside. Runners from far and near, 2 staunch supporters of the Tour come over from Bahrain every year, but many local runners too. You'll see green vests of the local East Cheshire Harriers Club, and one of the Bahrain runners is there in the red mesh vest just gone off the left of the screen. Leaders up into G Cross now. 2.5 miles done, and Harry Clegg is forcing the pace again. A group of three handily broke away from Steve Edmonds of Sale and Tony Keller, the leading veteran at this stage. Veteran means over 40 in the men's division. First junior in blue there was Stephen Wheeler from Stretford Athletic Club. And they're well stretched out now, well stretched out by that long hill from the start up to G Cross. And they're going across now into Hattersley eventually. '61 East Cheshire's Gary Dale. The hill of Werneth Low and its war memorial, prominent in the background, as these three stretch away from the rest of the field. Into Hattersley now, and down a hill before they have a very steep uphill, and it's still Harry Clegg from St Helens forcing the pace. Harry, in fact, is almost a veteran, will be a veteran I think a month after this tour ends, but he's showing some excellent form as they come now down towards the finish. And Steve Brace is hogging the rails there, he's leading now, he's going to take this stage. The Puma 7 mile road race, and Harry Clegg and Tony O'Kell fight it out for second and third. Steve Brace comes home in 35 minutes and 17 seconds. Followed by Tony O'Kell, who out-sprinted Harry Clegg over the last 150 metres. Steve Edmonds comes in fourth. Tony Keller of Manchester Harriers, the first veteran, in a remarkable fifth place. Martin Cruikshank from East Cheshire Harriers is sixth. Stephen Wheeler in blue and Dave Rigby from East Cheshire Harriers, 7th and 8th.
Michael Don, number 301, coming down towards you. Francis Davis coming in. 143 coming down to Chris O'Brien. Jim Murray and Stockport following Chris O'Brien in. Rob Taylor of Stockport Harriers coming down towards you, well run roll. Number 110 coming down towards the finish now is Steve Baker of Horry. Just being overtaken. Come on, Steve, have a go, look back. Number 533 coming down towards you. Number 42. Dave Sutton from Burnham Jogger. He's the back. One by 9, Waterhouse coming down towards the finish. Colin Graham coming down. He's been a Olympic runner. Well run, Colin. Couldn't see you so well up this morning. Gary Dale chasing her in there. Well run as a local runner from East Cheshire. Paul Reed from East Cheshire coming down towards you. That's number 55. Is Paul Football of East Cheshire, number 18. Steve Milton. Mario Watson, number 283. And James Gregory of Stockport. Local runner Harry Clegg of East Cheshire. Harry Kelly of East Cheshire. Another top runner. Veteran again, there's one or two of the lines who are over 40. Ricky Wild is there.
So many runners come into the finish that at some periods of the race there's so many they have to queue up in funnels and have the numbers and times given out. Now this is the start of the Gore-Tex Fabrics hill race, the second day of the Tour of Tameside, a 6-mile hill race which starts on the dam of Brushes Reservoir. Already Harry Clegg is at the front of things again. Harry, who was third the day before, in fact ran a marathon the weekend before the tour started, the Sandwell Marathon, and won it, so there must be some tiredness in his legs which he'll hope to ease out over the week, although this stage will certainly not help his recovery involving such severe climbs and descents at the end. Yesterday's winner Steve Brace seems content to sit in the second group as Harry Clegg leaves Peter Derbyshire in the black vest and red stripe of Wigan Harriers. Tony Keller, the veteran, just behind him. Dave Rigby from East Cheshire Harriers on the right of the screen in green, forming that group of 5. As they start to look at the climb which will take them to the top of Harrop Moor. And certainly Harry looks in quite an aggressive mood here, and he's opened up 15-20 metre lead. 2 oldies at the front there, although young Derbyshire looks like a junior, although he isn't. The junior in fact is the one in the blue shorts and the white vest from Stretford Athletic Club, Stephen Wheeler. But where is Brace? Did yesterday's stage take too much out of him? We should be able to spot him by his fluorescent yellow bright lights leader's jersey, but we can't see him as yet. Quite a lead this, quite a lot of determination on Harry's face. Maybe he feels that the descent will lose him some time and he needs to get some time in the bank, as we see Steve Brace on the left-hand side of that chasing group beginning to make some kind of a move and beginning to cover the break, or at least get with the main group in this stage. But you can see the steepness of the hills looking back over Staley Bridge there. It's a really tough course, this. It's one that the runners fear most of all. And the men that matter are in that chasing group as Steve Brace quickly moves to the head of it with Tony O'Kell head down at the back. Well, it's an unusual place to make an effort. It's hard enough just running up the hill without making some kind of a burst, as Steve appears to be doing now. Well, what a burst that was, because he's not only left the chasing group, he's also passed Harry Clegg, and he's making a determined effort to establish some kind of a lead. And this is where the marathon must be making its presence felt in Harry Clegg's legs. His thighs must be feeling quite heavy, especially with the race yesterday too. And a sneaky look over his shoulder to check where he's going. Whether that will encourage him to go further ahead or cause him to relax, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly the lead appears to be growing as he approaches the crest of the road hill and down the other side before, in fact, there is another climb on the tarmac before they leave the asphalted surfaces, get onto the rough to climb to the very top of the moor and the triangulation point and the rapid sweep or stumble or whatever you want to call it down to the finish at Copley Sports Centre. And well, Harry Clegg's found something in those legs on the downhill. He's suddenly revived, and in fact he's passed Steve and he's striding away, which is remarkable. This change in position so early in the race is really unusual. And there's the view that the runners will not see, because they'll be looking at the footing when they turn around that triangulation point and head down the hill. And it's Steve Brace who's forged ahead of Harry Clegg again, to start the descent, well ahead of the pursuing field of 480 so runners, with Pete Derbyshire from Wigan in third place, himself well ahead of the next group in fact, but positions change quite dramatically on this downhill descent depending on whether the runner goes recklessly down or picks his way down, hoping to avoid injuries and twisted ankles or indeed falls.
Get him, Martin, downhill. Come on, Martin. Go on, lad. Come on, Martin. Go, Rob. Come on, Francis. Come on, Rob. Come on, Jerry. Go on, Ben. Nice run. Come on, Harry. All downhill. Come on, Harry. Good running, Harry. Go on, Ben. Come on, Harry. Go on, Harry. Brilliant running, Harry. Right, Harry, you got to choose. You got your confidence. Go, Harry. Go on, Harry.
Well, I can assure you those runners really are tired, and the switch from the thighs forcing the body against gravity up to the top of that hill to those same muscles having to provide a great braking action to stop the bodies from rolling down and falling down the hill is quite a dramatic one, and for several yards there's very little to be felt in the legs. Angela Deegan, she's second lady as she went through the top of the hill there, heading off down to pick up some weary legs, and we can see the extent of that descent, which is complicated by two stone walls where in fact the majority, the less reckless, do pause to step on the top and jump over, but the more experienced fell runners would just take one leap at it and clear it and forget what's at the other side, or hope that the other side is quite landable and carry on down the hill. But that was the bulk of the field as the leaders are coming down now within 200 metres of the finish, and it's Steve Brace has held on to his lead, and it looks like Harry Clegg has picked his way down because he's only just come into the picture there in about fifth place in fact, and it's Tony O'Kell who's picked up a tremendous amount on that downhill, what can we call it, kamikaze descent. But Steve is very much aware that this is a tour and that the times are added up to get the overall leader, and he's really putting in a burst at the end to pick up a few seconds because he's had a rest from the downhill, he's got the energy in his legs, and he knows that every second counts at the end. Tony O'Kell goes through. Peter Derbyshire just cruising his way through, a junior in fourth place, which is quite remarkable. And Harry Clegg in fifth place, guarding his overall position.
Come on, downhill.
Well, there's a cameraman overtaking some of the athletes, but I don't think he ran the day before. And number 393, Tom Howarth, is not carrying his own portable loo. In fact, he's collecting for charity, but I don't think he's going to collect very much up on that moor.
Frank coming in. Well run, Harry. There we go. Rough Derbyshire from Stockport coming down. 2, 3, 4 men, Gregory of Stockport. Number 42 coming in is David Sutton Burnham Harriers. 196. Tony Radcliffe of Saddleworth.
For many of the runners, this is the first experience they've ever had of something like fell running, and although it's a painful experience physically, many people have come up to me after the race and said, you know, thanks for putting a race like that in the Tour of Tameside, because the ones that have had time to look around at the top have seen magnificent views, you've been out in the fresh air, and it's remarkable that you can get onto the moors within 2 or 3 miles of Tameside, or one of the centres of Tameside, for instance Staley Bridge, and it really is a different world up there. And although it's tough, some people still have enough energy left in their legs for a sprint finish, which is good for them. Angela Deegan finishes. Sue Exon from Stretford finishes close behind her, and Carol Walken from Horwich in the red striped shorts just behind her. So the second, third and fourth woman close together behind Karen Wapshott, who won her second stage of the Tour, as did Steve Brace, 2 out of 2. The third stage, the Adidas run across Tameside, 11 miles, and there'll be some sore legs tonight. Karen, 2 wins in 2 days. How do you feel about tonight's long stage?
Well, hopefully, I'm looking forward to tonight. Hopefully, I'm just going to try and run quite hard if I can, depends how I feel, because I think on the longer distances, you can make up more time than the shorter ones. But I'm not looking forward to the hill at the end of 11-mile course.
Well, you won on the hills yesterday, so I think you'll be okay. Good luck.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Steve, you won 2 stages, 2 wins, in fact. How about tonight?
Feeling quite good at the moment. See how the races run. I'm not going to eyeballs out from the start. A comfortable start, and may attack on the hill to finish. That would be the ideal plan, but you can't make plans.
What's the chances of winning all 6 stages like Eddie Hellebuik did 2 years ago?
Well, after yesterday, I'm a little more confident, because if any racer is going to come apart, well, it was yesterday. He's been a road runner and not experiencing anything like that descent. I'm a little bit more confident. Being a longer road runner as well, I think the bias is towards the road now from now on.
Okay, well, we wish you luck. Sure you can do it.
Thanks.
Thanks. Right, we know you're not second in the race. Can you give us some idea of what position you are?
Yeah, well, last night I was 455th.
And what's your name? We must look out for you.
Dave Ashley.
From
Glossop.
From Glossop, great.
Yes.
So are you familiar with the terrain around Mosley or not?
Not really, no. I can find my way from one place to another, but I'm not really. I've not run around here before.
Of course, it's fairly easy. You just got to follow the others, haven't you?
That when you get to my position, that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck to you tonight.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Steve Brace's win in the hill race of yesterday has given him a lead of 16 seconds over Tony O'Kell, and Karen Wapshott, in fact, is almost 3 minutes ahead of the next lady, so she's well in the lead. a deceptive course this. There are 8 miles which are more or less flat, and then there's a 3-mile climb from the centre of Ashton-under-Lyne to Moseley, and it's on that 3-mile climb that many people succumb. The legs finally give in and they break down to barely a trot, and there have been many disasters in the past years on that stretch of the course. I think we tend to see the heavier weights of the runners in general closer to the back of the field, but one has to admire their courage and determination in getting to the finish. Well, maybe Steve was kidding somebody when he said he wasn't going to go eyeballs out at the start, because there's Steve Brace at the head of the proceedings, in fact well ahead of the proceedings at the moment, seemingly trying to press on and establish some kind of a lead. But there's a long way to go yet. They've barely done half a mile, and the men that counter in there: Harry Clegg with the white vest and the red stripe, Tony O'Kell from Sale Harriers in the green, sandwiched over the shoulders of Steve Brace and Harry Clegg, and on the left-hand side with his number on his shorts and the distinctive green, red and white vest of Sale Harriers is Steve Edmonds, who had rather a poor run compared with his first stage in the hill race yesterday. And it's still Steve Brace at the head of proceedings, although his opponents are really on his tail now. The course goes to Ordenshaw. They're about to leave the main road just after this stage and run across a rough trail of Ordenshaw reservoirs. They'll then hit the main road again, Manchester Road up to Denton, Crown Point, turn left, go through Guide Bridge into Ashton-under-Lyne, and then start the climb, commenced by Cricket's Lane up to the finish at Moseley Football Club.
Sports fitters from High, Ron Hill Sport, and we're coming past the
This is Guide Bridge, in fact, just after the halfway stage. They're at about 6.5 miles here, and at the only feed station on the course. There is some cloud cover. It doesn't look that hot, but obviously on the third day of competition these runners feel the need for some refreshment. If it's not drinks, it's a sponge to wipe over the body to cool them down. Thank you. Ricky Wilde running for Tameside Metropolitan Borough Council team, who are co-promoters of this race. Harry Kelly in the striped shorts, grabbing for a sponge there. Pete Lomas, who's featured in the veterans section of this race on many previous occasions. And here we are now on the dreaded hill, Moseley Road. Going quite well, just overtaking a bus, although I must admit the bus was stationary. But Steve is doing, as he said in his interview at the start or before the start, that he would perhaps attack on the hill. He made a small attack at the start of the race, was caught by his main opponents, stayed with them, and here he's forcing his way ahead up the hill to the crest, and then a very fast last half mile downhill into Moseley Football Club.
The runners behind.
He's just checking, and there's Harry Clegg taking an unofficial sponge,
And 50 metres down.
and Tony O'Kell has dropped well behind those two I should say. He's in third position, in fact. Something of a problem contending with the traffic on this stretch of the road. And in fact, Tony O'Kell has an escort of cyclists who are riding well out into the road to protect him from traffic. And here's a taxi coming. I mean, these guys are so far ahead, one could imagine that anybody chasing them would probably have to get in that taxi to get anywhere near them. But that is not allowed. They would be disqualified, and I'm sure none of them would attempt to do that anyway. And the lead of Steve Brace is growing slowly as he approaches the top of the hill, and the magnificent view of the Cheshire Plain in the background there. He's looking to his right. There's a folly, a huge tower. Hart's Head Pike. He's had a look at that. He's had a look to his left, or sorry, his right, to check where Harry Clegg is. He's well down. He looks at Hart's Head Pike again and then starts his descent. And again, he's always aware of picking up time in case somewhere in the race he has some kind of a disaster and he needs some seconds or minutes in the bank, and he's really striding for home here. Welcome to the third stage, halfway through the Tour of Tameside. The Adidas run across Tameside, 11 miles, which I believe was 8 miles nice and easy, and then 3 miles of pure murder. We'll do the men first tonight. And the winner again, and he's heading for Eddie Hellebuyk's record of 6 stage wins. And there might be a couple of people who are going to dispute that a bit later on. But Steve Brace from Bridgend, 57.04, the winner again. Well done. And in the ladies, Canal Wapshot from Bracknell stretches her lead a lot further, and her time was 1 hour 11:35. Well done, Karen. A day's rest followed by the Brooks Half Marathon. 5 laps plus a little bit over the town centre course of Ashton-under-Lyne. And Steve Brace now has a 50-second lead over Harry Clegg. Harry has moved into second place with that run yesterday and that convincing defeat of Tony O'Kell. And Karen Wapshot has an enormous lead now, 3.5 minutes, and one of her rivals, Angela Deegan, has dropped out after the run across Tameside. She had a baby 6 months ago and obviously hasn't had enough time to get into top condition, and you really have to be in some kind of condition to dispute the leadership in a race of this nature. And it's Harry Clegg tonight he's wearing a white vest with a dark blue band, who's heading the huge field at the start of this half marathon. Again, they're being cautious. They know that there's 13.1 miles to go. It's a long way. It's 5 laps, and on each of those 5 laps, there's quite a steep hill. And a lot can happen in this race. Thankfully, the sun is not shining. It's no direct sunlight to trouble the runners, and the summer hasn't been particularly brilliant this year, which is a small blessing for the Tour of Tameside, or for the runners that is, but I don't think we really want to keep up the kind of weather we've had over the last couple of years. Tony O'Kell takes up the running now, perhaps hoping to claw back second place by the end of this stage from Harry Clegg. Dave Rigby, number 79, in the grey vest and yellow shorts. Stephen Wheeler in the blue vest and blue shorts, still heading up by quite a margin the junior section of the race. Martin Cruikshank, who didn't feature prominently the night before, is in that group now, trying to get back up into the leading positions and to help East Cheshire to a team victory if possible. There are team races for clubs, there are team races for veterans, there are team races for company teams, so there's lots of interest further down the field in what's happening, apart from what's happening right at the front of the race. And again, Steve Brace is playing it very cautious. He seems to have disappeared somewhere on this first lap, and there's quite a big group at the start, so it's surprising that he's not there. But 3 wins in 3 races does take quite a bit out of your body, and we'll have to wait to see what he's up to tonight. And down the far end of the course, the back straight you might say, slightly downhill, a long downhill, Tony O'Kell and Harry Clegg, and I think Harry's making the pace here, have broken well away from that following group, which is just being headed now, in fact just being left by Steve Brace, but it's about a 60 to 70 metre gap there. But look at Brace coming on now. This is absolutely incredible, because that second group are not hanging about, and in the space of 200 metres he must have closed about 60 metres. Well, that's almost sprinting. But there he is, he's right on the back of him, and O'Kell can't believe it. He looks over his shoulder and says, you know, where did he come from? And just look how far he's left that group by. Now, this ought to take too much out of him by any kind of logical thinking. So can he hang on to these two? Are they going to put the pressure on there to try and get rid of him? But now he seems to be just loping along. He seems to be in a comfortable kind of rhythm, so maybe he's going to hang on to them. And I doubt if anybody else will in fact come up to this group, although that long telephoto shot shows that there is a large group in pursuit as they head down a long gradual slope towards Oldham Road and then left down to the start again in the centre of Ashton-under-Lyne outside the baths there. And this is back to the start. The road has been coned off. It's quite a busy road, this, and the police do a great job keeping the traffic away from the runners, because it does get very complicated on a short circuit of this nature. The runners get lapped, and there are times at the latter stage of the race when there are runners all over that 2.5 mile circuit, and after the first lap they're anxious to grab drinks and sponges, so they must be feeling the heat that the spectators are not feeling. And Tony O'Kell is forcing the pace again from Harry Clegg, and Steve Brace is using those sponges to wipe the perspiration from his face, to get moisture onto his arms and legs, to let the air blow over this moisture and to cool his body down. A momentary lapse for Steve as he went through his cooling process, but not for long, and he's there straight away right on the shoulders of these two runners, watching what they're doing as again they head up the hill into Cricket's Lane and over the top of the hill down the long back straight again, and we can see with the benefit of the telephoto shot a huge following group. Now they haven't run, they're just finishing the second lap, and in fact they're lapping one competitor. Glenys Scott, in fact, the woman on the left, I think is the only one in the race. I think the other was a helper. So she's going to be out for a long time tonight. I think it'll be dark when she finishes. But finish she will. But all these three look quite determined. A look of concentration on the faces, not strained, just pure concentration, and they'll keep up this concentration for 13.1 miles, which is some achievement. And again, second lap, drinks. Steve Baker of Horwich comes through, and he's ignoring both the drinks and the sponges by the looks of it. The guy in white there, 273, Jeff Coulson from Valley Stride, is an interesting character. He's well up in the race, but in fact he entered just for an experience, if you will, and he promised his wife that he was going to go to a wedding on Saturday. So this guy is going to be well up in the top 10 of the race, and he's not going to be able to finish it because on Saturday his wife has put her foot down and says, you are going to that wedding as promised, and there he has to go, and what a shame. Groups forming now as the runners split up. David Sutton is not a race leader. His club has adopted those bright fluorescent colours for their own club colours, so he's travelled up from South Burnham Joggers Athletic Club, and welcome he is too. The man in the black vest and the yellow band there is from Aberdeen, Steve Milton, so he's travelled a long way. And here they come again, lapping the tail-enders as they sweep through on their relentless progress into the last 2 laps. A lot of water being dispensed at this officials feed station. In fact, there is another feed station put on by a pub, the Hot Pole, just before the end of the lap. I understand that they're serving only water and not beer, unless you've got some money with you, but I don't think it'd be advisable to be drinking pints of bitter with 5 or 6 miles still to go in the race. Neil Canham, a local school teacher. And the guy in the blue shorts is Pete Rogers, and he's the other guy running from Bahrain. Comes over every year. Will be over 50 next year and is promising to win that division. Karen Wapshot in her race leader's vest, the leading lady once more on this 4th stage. Keith Wilkinson in the red vest there, again another staunch supporter of the Tour of Tameside from the Reebok Racing Club. It's hard to believe, but most of these people are actually enjoying this. Or are they? I think certainly they enjoy that first pint when the race is over, having exerted themselves so much. And we see some of the tail enders now tackling that cricket's lane which the leaders seem to fly up.
Get it now, have another twist. Go on, Steve.
Well, Steve comes in now at the end of the race, well clear of his opposition for a 4th stage win. Obviously timed it to perfection, he knew what he was doing, put the boot in where it mattered, has come home a really good winner, although obviously it's taken quite a bit out of him. And Harry Clegg comes in 2nd place, deservedly tired after that 13.1 mile hard run, because these guys are not jogging and sprinting at the end, they're running hard all the way. And on to the 5th stage, the Athletics Weekly cross-country race. Now, you've had a good battle with this guy, John Nettleton from Tadcaster. Do you think you're going to be able to keep it up for the rest of the 2 stages and take the over 45s again?
I'm hoping so, because I've now got a 40-second lead, and all I've got to do now is to hold on to John, but also I've got to keep my eye on Pete Lummis, who's moving through very, very well from Stockport.
Good, well I'll be watching that part of the race and hoping to be with you next year. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Ronnie.
Well, off they go, and Steve Brace, after last night's win, is now 1.5 minutes clear of Harry Clegg. Antonio Kell, in fact, had a disaster in the half marathon. He finished in 12th place, and although he hangs on to 3rd place overall, he's almost 4 minutes behind Clegg. And obviously Karen Wapshot's fourth win takes her to almost an unassailable position in the women's division. 3 laps, just over 6 miles of genuine cross-country. There are 1 or 2 little bits of trail in it, but there are lots of twists and turns on bumpy grass, ups and downs, and it's hard work, I can tell you, after 4 races. Steve Brace, who confesses that he is more of a road runner than a cross-country runner, has decided to take matters into his own hands on this race, and he's forcing an early lead because he's looking to ensure that 5th stage win, which will help him towards 6 wins in 6 days. Can he hang on there? The road runners find this a little bit difficult, the unsure footing, and it's not everybody that can combine an ability over cross-country with a great ability at road running. Tony Keller just gone through in that bright green vest. He's well on the way the leader in the veterans section. One of the problems of a course of this nature is that it's not wide like a road where you can have plenty of room for overtaking runners. There are sections on the course where you've either got to run directly behind the runner in front and run in place, or get out onto the rough grass and risk a sprint to try and get by anybody in front. But it is difficult, and it does have to create certain tactics. And there's Steve Brace and Tony O'Kell. There's more stripes there than a stick of Blackpool Rock, I think. But they're matching stride for stride as they head into the second lap, with Harry Clegg some way behind. But Harry has to keep pressing on because he can't afford any disasters with O'Kell coming back at the end of the race.
Steve Edmund, Chris O'Brien, Ricky Wilde going through there. Well done, Ricky. Jeff Coulson.
Poor Jeff, this is his last race. Give it all you've got, Jeff.
Tony Keller, nice round of applause for Tony Keller, wearing the Davo vest of the vet leader. Over 40 that guy, and up there with all those star guys. Star 9 himself. Harry Kelly, another vet, closely following. Harry O'Fahey. North Derbyshire, the Stockport leading runner tonight. Gregory following him from Stockport, that's 2 Stockport lads. East Cheshire's Martin Cruikshank following on. Altrincham Street Rovers, another veteran runner. Pete Derbyshire in 3rd place, Harry Clegg in 4th.
The 2 leaders still locked together there as they go up a long hill on the far side of the course, a long and bumpy hill, and it's sometimes better to be in the lead there, especially if you're Steve Brace, who doesn't see too well. I think tonight he's wearing his spectacles because he knows that he's got to be sure of his footing. But Tony Kell here has broken away from Steve. Tony is more of a cross-country runner. In fact, it's interesting that the reason for his almost disastrous 12th place on the 4th stage, the half marathon, was the fact that on the rest day, this man went and ran a 10k race somewhere else. So instead of resting, he had another race. And had he not done that, he might have been a lot further up overall in the Tour. And I think if he comes back next year, he may be a little wiser. There he goes, heading into the 3rd and final lap as Steve Brace comes through.
Steve Brace
Chased by Peter Derbyshire.
and Harry Clegg.
Thank you, George. And just in the background is Glenys Scott, who's been lapped. They've done 2 laps to her 1. She should finish in daylight, I think, tonight, though. And there's Karen Wapshott in the purple shorts and the bright lights vest. Again, handsomely leading the women's division of the race.
Well, keep it going.
But there comes Tony again. There's the difficulty in passing the lap runners as Steve Brace chases him home and Harry Clegg just behind him. You can see they're almost sprinting now up that rugged hill as they approach the finish. And it's Tony's race easily. And he denies Steve Brace the opportunity of repeating Eddie Hallebrick's record of 2 years ago of 6 stage wins. A good second. It took a good man to beat him, and Harry Clegg defends his second place overall as he comes in 3rd position. And following the race is traditionally a fun run for anyone to run. We've lost the starter, so yours truly is having to do the honours here. But these kids are anxious to go. And we've got about, not quite as many as in the Tour, but must be about 300 runners here, all going to do 1 lap of the course to gain a certificate. And it's supposed to be a fun run, but I can assure you it's more like a race. In fact, I think I was 14th place. Now, contrary to popular belief, not everybody loves jogging. As we go into the final stage, the Reebok Canal race, 9 miles, mainly downhill and flat apart from this dramatic little hill at the start, which we had to put in to ensure the correct and full distance of 9 miles. And there's always a mad dash at the start of this race for the first 1.5 miles to get to the canal first, because everybody imagines it's impossible to pass once they come to the narrow toe pass. It's not quite true, but nevertheless everybody flogs themselves to get to the canal first. And it's Dave Rigby from the local club East Cheshire Harriers, and there's a man who's missed the start. Poor devil, he's got to go right back down that hill against all that flow of runners, touch the start line, then join back in the race. And he's willing to do that. He wants to do that because having done 5 stages of the race, there's no way he's going to miss out on this final day. Steve Brace is 1 minute and 32 seconds ahead of Harry Clegg, and Harry's only tactic can be to force it in this race, to see whether he can force some kind of submission from Steve, hoping that Steve maybe his legs are going to go or something like that, or he may fall in the canal as he did 3 years ago. He was pushed, mind you, but he did dive in the canal, and you can imagine my amazement as he passed me and beat me when I was running that year. But it's Tony O'Call who's forcing the pace there with Steve Brace second. We see runners at about the 6.5 mile stage in the final race, the Portland Basin, where 3 canals meet. And they've left the Ashton Canal, they went down the Huddersfield Narrow Canal at the beginning of the race, and they're now on the Peak Forest Canal and heading for home. And Karen Wapshott goes through. It looks like, barring disaster, she's going to win all 6 stages of the women's race. A remarkable performance. And this is the sight the runners want to see. The final finish banner. 52.4 miles of running in the legs, or 52.4 miles of competition, because I'm sure these guys have been running and training in between. We know that the second man there, Tony O'Call, has been racing in between, rather a foolish thing to do. He will get 3rd place overall. Steve, 5 wins out of 6 races, crosses the line, 4 hours, 33 minutes and 45 seconds for 2 marathons. A great performance. Tony O'Call second for 3rd place overall, and Harry Clegg will come in 3rd for second place overall in the 1986 Tour of Tameside. And these three, as usual, well ahead of the rest of the field. And in fourth place, remarkable performance, a man over 40, Tony Keller of Manchester Harriers, leading home the winning team with Chris O'Brien, his teammate, behind him. Peter Derbyshire from Wigan coming in.
Tony Keller, the leader of the back section. Pete Derbyshire. Well, up they go.
Steve Baker leading in a record number of 465 finishes.
Martin Cruikshank, Neil Wheeler. Well, Martin Cruikshank.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the presentation to the overall winners of the 1986 Tour of Tameside. And Karen Wapshott is the winner in the ladies division. She's the only one in any division to win all 6 stages, and it's a tremendous performance. Karen Wapshott. Making a presentation on behalf of Tameside is the Deputy Chief Recreation Officer, Steve Hayhurst. Would you welcome him, please? And another remarkable athlete, winner in the men's division, unfortunately lost the stage last night. He's won 5 out of 6, but he's a great champion, Steve Brace from Bridgend. Well done, Steve. Well, Steve Brace is an example of perseverance. He's been a staunch supporter of the Tour. He came in 1983, which was the year I mentioned he got pushed into the Canal. He finished 21st overall. In 1984 he came back and was 13th. In 1985, last year, he came back and was in the top 10. He was 9th. And this year he's gone on to take the highest accolade. He's an outright winner by quite a margin. And we talked about the finishers, a record 465. In 1981, the inaugural year of the Tour, we had 147 finishers. The year after, 185. In 83, it jumped to 268. In 84, we broke the 300 barrier with 320. In 85, it leapt to 453. And this year, we had just 12 more finishers with the 465. I think the moral of this is, if you want to get into the Tour next year, enter the Tour of Tameside early.
over and treated by vets. I want